Hey everybody, it's Darrell, and welcome to our noon Pacific time back 40 broadcast. I'm out of the office, out of the house today. So the great thing about having a mobile business is that you're mobile. You can do it anywhere. So thank you to the broadcast. Thank you to the Hilton out of the for office, out of the house today. So great thing about thank you to the Hilton for providing this awesome space today while Alexander and I are out doing some awesome, great back 40 things. So anyhow, thanks for being here. And the purpose of this broadcast each week is to give you a nugget or a nudge to support you to have your second half of life be your best half of life. And if you were with us last week, we started with the subject or the topic of playing dirty. And if you were with us, you saw us play completely dirty. And if you weren't with us, go back to our live stream page on theback40.com and you can see me totally playing dirty. And what that means is that we didn't have all the bugs worked out. We didn't have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed. And yet we went out live and we kicked it off and we got started. And that whole idea, someone who's in the back 40 community actually said, did you plan it that way? Come on, you were just like demonstrating, right? Playing dirty. Because it's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to actually get out and play dirty and not look so good when you start something. But one of the things that we noticed is that or one of the things we promote in our back 40 philosophy is that if we're waiting until we get it all worked out, it ain't gonna happen. And I'm sure y'all can relate. So anyhow, if you were with us last week, thank you. And if you weren't, go watch us playing dirty last week. And now we're off to another start this week. And we're gonna bring you this each week because we're really committed that you have yet to do what you came here to do. We have yet to do what we came here to do. And we want to give you methods and mindset to support you in being able to do that. And be sure to visit our website, back40.com. You can see the activities, the events we have going on. Then there's downloads. There's a great blog developing there about subject matter that relates to the second half of life and playing it powerfully. You can also download top 10 tips for a radical second half. So today, what we're the nugget or nudge I want to offer is around deeds, and I'm actually calling it deed seeds. Now I'm going to share my screen here, and we're still playing dirty because we're playing new with these technologies. But so we're going to talk about deed seeds today, and here's a little quote from Sophocles. To be doing good deeds is man's most glorious task. Now, how many of you, and I'm going to look on the chat here. If you're here with us, please jump in on the chat and type something out and say that you're here, say your name, and throw out some questions every now and then, and you know, just interact. But what did you learn? What did you learn when you were growing up about good deeds? So, you know, I remember, and just feel free to chat, put in your thoughts. When did you first learn about good deeds, or what were the influences that you had around good deeds? I remember going to church, and there were certain church classes that I took, and we learned things from the Bible about doing good deeds, and there's a lot of formative influences that we get when we're growing up about, you know, shaping our moral character. I remember in junior high school that there were they actually had a whole program about morality development, and so every day in class for about 3 months there would be 30 minutes of watching videos, and they'd ask questions. So anyhow, you know, there's a lot of emphasis that we get when we're growing up around learning moral character and being a good person. And, you know, I think everyone down deep wants to do good for others. And yet I think a lot of us can get overwhelmed by all the help that needs to be done out there. Um, how does it affect you? When you see a homeless person, charities, there's so many charities, to give to. Um, I used to have a dollar in my little console, so that every time I was going through an underpass or something and someone was standing with a sign, I would give them a dollar. And yet, I was in New York a couple of weeks ago, and I live in LA, and so you go under an underpass every now and then, or you might in general life in LA encounter a few homeless people during the day, but in New York, walking the streets, it's like just, everywhere, and it can be overwhelming. And I think sometimes we even build walls or something in our mind just to keep us from the heartache or from the pain that it is to see all that there is out there to help. When it comes to charities, I've noticed that if you give to certain charities, that I think they share their email lists with every other charity, and so then your box gets filled. And so, it can, I think as we get older, the sweetness of the good deeds and everything can start to, kind of fade because it can become a burden, or, there's just so much help out there, and we have to kind of protect our emotions around it. So, I mean, how do you deal with it? How do you deal with the homeless person? How do you deal with all the, and we all have to find our place. And what I want to bring up today, and I want to ask, how many of you have ever had something come at you from different avenues all at the same time, like there's a message coming to you? That's what this week has been about. And that's, I put out a weekly newsletter called the Jolt Job Overhaul Life Transformation Newsletter. You can sign up for it at careerguy.com. You can also sign up at theback40.com. But because of these multiple influences happening at the same time, it was like, wow, there's a message going on here. I told you that I've had these experiences and what I've done, around homeless people for years. And sometimes, again, when I was in New York, I just kind of had to block myself. And yet a very good friend showed up in my life last Sunday, someone I knew many years ago who's now homeless. And he had slept behind a dumpster the night before. And anyhow, I noticed this pull to help, and we've all learned too, you can't enable. So there's the desire to help, and then there's the enabling. And I wrote about that in a blog recently about what it is to be parent of an adult child. So anyhow, this friend of mine shows up, and he's homeless, and so there's this pull internally of like, well, how much can I give, or how should I give, or and I ended up putting him up in a hotel for a couple nights. He's waiting in town for a special meeting that he has on Friday, and then he was actually going to be out on the street again, sleeping behind the dumpster before this special meeting, if he didn't have something else, and I put him up for another few nights. And I'm not saying any of that because that's not to gain any kudos or anything, but what I just noticed is that I had to notice within myself, the barriers to giving, or the good sense about not enabling, and then the desire to give and to help. And anyhow, then I ended up doing a course yesterday, and I'm very into personal development. Love everything that can help me, expand my mind and become the biggest expression of myself that I can. And a big part of the course was about, everything you do during the day, everything you do is either building your self-concept or it's taking it down. And, this gentleman talked about, what about before you have a big meeting, or before you have a conference call, or before you're about to go in and make some sales calls? What if you put some good things out in the universe? What if you call someone and tell them you've been thinking about them and just wish them a great day? What if you pick up some trash that's laying there that everybody's walking over? What if when you're driving to work, you let someone cut in front of you? You don't even let them cut in front of you because you give them the right of way. You drive friendly and other oriented. So anyhow, he was just talking about and so it got me thinking that, I put my friend up for a couple of days, and then yesterday I just chose to put him up for a few more days. And look, I'm not saying this is absolutely related, but what's really interesting is that I made more money yesterday than the previous few weeks in one day. And so again, it's not an in order to. I'm not saying this because we want to give in order to. And what I do think about deed seeds is that, well, what do we have to lose? How do we feel? How do we feel whenever we're doing these things, when we go out of our way? Then there was a speaker this morning at an event that I attended, and she was really talking about the scientific proof of generosity. So all of these things happening, and what's really interesting is that I put out my newsletter this morning about 6 a.m. about deed seeds, and then I go to her talk, and she's just talking about the power of generosity. So there's a message here going on, and that's why I'm sharing it with you, so that as we look into our back 40 from a back 40 of life perspective, let's look at what deeds can do to have us living a happier, healthier, more fulfilling, joyous life. As we get older, it could be the case that it's like, oh, I used to give too much, or I used to do this, and I'm not that way anymore. I don't. And so, part of our back 40 philosophy is letting go of how we have now decided things are, or how we are, and to really start to be open again and curious again. And I'd like to open up curiosity around this whole idea of deeds and doing for others and putting our mind on others. So, look for yourself. How do you generally feel after you've given? There's lots of ways to give. It doesn't mean money to a charity necessarily, could be. Anonymous giving sometimes is they say even more powerful, because it's not about, you and how you're looking, but just anonymously giving, like the car behind you at the drive-through, paying for putting $10 towards their lunch, or letting someone move in front of you in traffic and waving and smiling. It's like, I know it all could sound Pollyanna. And again, from a child's perspective, it might be like, yeah, that's for kids. I want us to explore, like, what can that do for us? What can that do for our spirit? How does it enable us to go into the day? How would it enable us to go into a meeting if we've done a few good deeds this morning? How would it enable us to make 50 sales calls today if we've put some good energy out into the universe? I personally think that I feel more worthy of good coming to me, like allowing it to come to me, when I feel like I'm in this giving mode. So I want to share with you a couple thoughts that came up this morning around this idea from the speaker this morning. Well, first off, like I said, okay, I'm not sharing my screen anymore. Hold on one second. We're going to get really, really good at this, aren't we? Absolutely, because we play first. Play first is a concept from the back 40 that basically says, just start playing, don't wait till you've got it all worked out. So here's some interesting ideas. Everything you're doing throughout your day, everything that happens to you is either building or tearing down your self-concept. So, there's going to be a lot of stuff happening to us today. And that's going to happen. There's going to be highs and lows in our business, or highs and lows in what happens in our work, or in our relationships, or whatever. And if we can impact that, if we can impact how we feel by putting some deeds out there in the universe ahead of time, maybe that's a smart thing. We have control over that. We could say that we don't have control over the things that are happening to us during the day. I could debate that too, but we do have some control over what we're putting out. And then also studies actually show that generosity is in our best interest. And it's the number one key to a happy, healthy life. So in terms of the back 40, as we start to look into our second half, and especially if we're really committed that it be radical, meaning not limited at all by what's come before, not based on the past, not limited by the past, then we want to know what the number one key to a happy, healthy life is. And, this morning it was shared that there are doctors now that are actually prescribing activities, giving activities to their patients, getting them involved in the community, getting them with their mind off of themselves so that they're out there contributing and giving. And the studies are showing that it's making a difference in their health. I mean, y'all can probably get that, but it's like now it's actually being exercised by doctors. And we all know that businesses that have a social cause, businesses that are about something, make more profits. In today's world, they are the business that's chosen over a business that doesn't have a social cause. And she also shared with us this morning, I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to order it, a book by Stephen Post, Dr. Stephen Post, called Why Good Things Happen to Good People. And it really makes this case that generosity is the most powerful force on the planet. So my question to myself, as well as you, is what if we play? What if we play with this week? What if we look at how we concede our day, how we concede certain events that are going to be occurring during the day with a little bit of, goodness that we put out somewhere. Think about it. Today, if you're walking down the street and there's a plastic cup that someone threw down, it's like, no, it's not your job. But you know what? It's your world. And if you're making it better for you and others, what does it cost you? Or when you are driving, driving with someone else in mind or others in mind, and being the friendly. When I was in New York last week, and I've been to New York a few times in my life. I haven't spent a lot of time there, but I grew up in this small town in Texas, and you could get overwhelmed. One could get overwhelmed by how big it is, and the subways and all of this. And I was just so blown away that I got on the subway one time with my rolling bag, and a nice older Chinese gentleman. It was kind of hard to be on the subway holding it, but it's kind of like, someone would tend to think, in big cities like that, everybody's about themselves and you got to take care of yourself and things like that. And this Chinese gentleman got up and offered me a seat and stood for the next 3 or 4 stops. And, at first I said, no. He said, please. And it's like, there's goodness all around us. And it's how do we feel when we're the person who's done that? So this week, what if we seed our day? What if we seed the events that are about to happen in our day with little acts of goodness? And here's a question too. What might that be like? What if we just went into the day even thinking that? How can I seed the day? How can I throw a good deed out here or there? My guess is that by even just having it in our mind as a game that we're playing over the next 7 days, there's just going to be a different kind of energy that shows up. Like I said, not making any cause and effect. And yesterday, just this amazing, day of being able to contribute to others with my services, with my coaching. And all of that came together, and people that had been kind of hanging out, came up and getting started. So that's what I want to throw out for us this week. And my wonderful partner Alexandra will support me in playing this as well. And by the way, do not rely on yourself to play this game. All of us have good ideas that usually just kind of die because we rely on ourselves. Get a buddy, get a partner. Go tell your wife, go tell your husband, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your coworker. Hey, here's a game to play this week. Would you play it with me? And could we check in each day and see what we're seeing? So here's the game. Plant 3 deed seeds every day before noon. Don't know what it would look like. Maybe it's, like I said, being friendly and other-oriented in traffic. Maybe it's stopping to compliment someone. Maybe it's stopping just to talk to someone. What about the doorman? What about the person, the barista? What about having a conversation and actually acknowledging someone's existence? What about giving something anonymously? I'll share with you that when I was a kid, I used to hear how Elvis would give so much. And I heard a story one time of how he gave a car to a young couple at a dealership, but he gave it anonymously. It wasn't about him, but he saw them looking at this car and goggling over it. There was no way they could afford it. And the car dealer went out and gave them the keys to the car and said that it's theirs. That's kind of like cool, isn't it? Or leave a message for someone that you're just thinking about. And what would it be for you? What would it be for you? What are you might make a list of all the possible deed seeds that you could do this week. And then just watch how your day goes. And at the end of the day, just do a quick inventory. How was this day? See if there's anything you notice in your energy, anything you notice in the results that come out of the day. And then go to our Facebook community, the Back 40 Facebook. Go to Facebook and put in the Back 40, like it if you haven't already liked it. And, share what you see. Share what you see out of that happening and playing that kind of game. So that's what we're going to play this week. I look forward to hearing how it goes for you. And also, by the way, as part of the giving, we gave away a free ebook today. It's free all day on Kindle, and it's called Birth of the Back 40. So if you go to Kindle and you put in Birth of the Back 40, you'll see it's free all day today. We'd love you to have that. You'll get a little bit of a sense of how this whole Back 40 community or idea even got started. And thank you for being a part of our broadcast here today. We look forward to seeing you next week, and keep those cards and letters coming, and go out and have a radical week.